Hi, I'm Lynnann Chartuk. I'm an early childhood special ed teacher in a reverse inclusion class, and I'm being interviewed by Elizabeth today.
Hi, Lynnann. Um, can you tell us what you do as an early childhood special ed teacher? What does that mean?
I have a class of 12 students. 6 have an IEP, an individualized education program, and 6 are typically developing children who volunteer to participate in the class.
And what kind of education did you need for this job?
My undergrad degree was in a dual major in regular education in elementary school and special education, and my master's degree was a specialized program specific to early childhood education, which is for babies birth through age 8.
And what is the main role of your job? What does it mean to have reverse inclusion?
The philosophy behind the reverse inclusion class, which is a little bit confusing. Typical inclusion is a typically developing preschool, and children with special needs are included in it. In Loudoun County, where I work, we do not have access to typically developing peers in the school system. So I'm a special education teacher, we are a special education class, and we invite typical peers to participate. It is 50-50, which the state of Virginia says it needs to be 50-50 to be inclusive. But we're first a special ed class with the typical peers joining us instead of the other way around.
Okay, and how did you get that job? Was it a job that you just applied for, or were you specially trained?
Well, I was initially hired as an early childhood special ed teacher. I worked as a resource teacher, and I supported children with an IEP out in the community in their community preschools. When they opened the reverse inclusion class, I was recruited to take place in it, and so I accepted the position.
Do you work on a team, or is it just you?
Yes, we have an entire team of professionals. I have a full-time classroom assistant, and we work interchangeably. You should come into my class and not necessarily know who the teacher is and who the assistant is. We are also supported by a full related service team, which consists of a speech pathologist, an occupational therapist, and a physical therapist.
Have you met any challenges or adversity with your goals for this classroom?
I think the biggest challenge we have is to differentiate instruction for each student's individual need. So to differentiate instruction for our students that need more support, as well as differentiating to provide challenging to our typical peers. We sometimes worry at the beginning of the year that we haven't been able to provide enough of direct instruction to our children that need more help, but by the end of the year we found that the benefits of being in the reverse inclusion class outweigh that, and they've continued to meet their goals.
Excuse me. How do these challenges connect to children with behavior disorders and disabilities?
The reverse inclusion class presents a couple of different challenges. One is to have the families understand what our role is in the class and understand that behavior is often a result of children not being able to express themselves in a more socially acceptable manner, and that rarely is it aggressive. So first we work with the families and the children to understand what the purpose of the behavior is. Then we help the little guy that has those behaviors understand, to provide them with other strategies that they can use instead, as well as helping the peers cue that child. We never want a child to be viewed as a piranha that they should stay away from. We always want them to include the child in their play, but at the same time understand that they are able to help that child know that there's a better way to get a toy, for instance, than grabbing it or hitting for it. So we work kind of a three-prong approach to behavior.
Thank you for sharing that with me. Leading right into that, what do you feel is your greatest success story? Do you have a story that can help illustrate?
We do. We have a little guy from the first year that we started our reverse inclusion class. He did not have very much language at all. He had a diagnosis of Down syndrome. He was very friendly and very much wanted to be a part of the group, but his primary strategy was, rather than calling somebody by name or saying hello, he would kind of bop them in the belly or bop them on the head. He also wanted so much to be with the group that he would sort of physically just push his way into whatever situation there was. We had phone calls from some of the parents of the typically developing children that there was a little boy that was pushing. And we worked in conjunction with a behavior and a BCBA trained behavioralist came in and helped us. One of the mistakes that we were making was we were focusing on the behavior that we wanted to decrease, which was hitting and pushing or throwing toys. What the behavior people helped us do was change our perspective, and we began taking data on the amount of time that he was on task and doing what he needed to do. So we took interval data every 5 minutes and recorded if he was on task and doing what he needed to do, or if he pushed or hit or threw anything, then he was not on task. Once we changed that philosophy, we were able to help him till he was on task and doing what he needed to be doing for more than 80% of the day,
Wow.
which is what we would expect of typical peers. So that was our biggest success story. While we were doing that, we also helped the peers understand what the purpose of his behavior was, and that he wasn't being mean, and he was actually trying to get their attention in order to get them to play. So we gave them some strategies to help him. They learned to be able to say, "Stop, Z," but then instead of going away, then saying what you want, or would you like a turn, or do you need more space? And that helped him continue to be included in the group.
Oh, okay. So you helped the children to learn how to include their friend also. It wasn't just a teacher-directed thing.
Right, right.
Cool. Cool. How are you assessed in your job?
In the state of Virginia, we are, once you're a permanently certified teacher and you've been in the system for 3 years, the first 3 years that you're working in the system, you're evaluated every year. After that, you're on an evaluation cycle every 3 years. We do write goals, personal goals for the year,
Okay.
to that we take data on and hopefully meet, that are class-based goals. In addition to that, we are charged with making sure that the children make sufficient progress on all of their IEP goals, hopefully mastering them.
And what's an IEP?
It's an individual education program or plan that specifies where children will need help, their areas of greatest need that need specific instruction. That's not the only thing we work on. We continue to work on age expectation activities and our curriculum, but within that we target the specific strategies for kids that need help to achieve a goal.
Oh, okay. So it's like additional things they need to learn to have an even playing field.
Exactly.
Okay. How do you feel this job has changed you personally and professionally? We can start with personally first.
Personally changed me. This is something that I have always loved to do. Working with children and working with families has both been very important to me. It's also been very helpful for me to see children, always the children that challenge me the most at the beginning of the year tend to be my greatest success stories. That to be able to watch them move forward is, I think, what makes it worthwhile for me. But also just our daily interactions, and that the unexpected things that come up with children in the day, good and bad, make it new and challenging and fun every day.
Cool. Do you feel like you're the first students you've had, there's been a difference between them and your students now and the millennial years?
I have been teaching for a very long time, but I think in essence kids are kids, and they've always been kids. I think that we have some new strategies, that inclusion has always been very important throughout my career. I think that's probably been one of my biggest struggles, is that in different work situations have been at different levels of inclusion. And I've always been striving to have children be taught in an inclusive environment, and that has not always been supported by the administrations where I've worked, but that seems to be a little bit easier than it had been in the past.
Oh, okay. And besides retirement, what would you like to do next?
There you go. Retirement, I think about when I'm having difficulty get up and off the floor. But I think that I would like to share what I've learned. I have worked with the university as an adjunct professor and also as a supervisor for young teachers and as a mentor, and I enjoy that very much as well. And also I would like to do some consulting for families, because I think that once children get to the school system, the family doesn't have that connection as much. Even though we do monthly home visits, very often school and home don't coordinate as much as they should. So I'd like to follow through with that, as well as helping other teachers have a more holistic approach, more open-ended artwork, where the children are the guide instead of things being so teacher-directed. That's another area that I really enjoy.
Huh. That's cool. Do you have a takeaway for my fellow classmates, or a message you'd like to put out, a mantra maybe?
A mantra. That's like, I think my biggest mantra, that kids are kids, and that who you are is who you are, and our job as educators is to help them become the best version of who they are. So we're